by for Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors with your host, Drew Kirby.
Hey, this is Luke Holmes.
I am Morgan Wallen.
I'm Riley Green.
I'm Travis Denning.
Hey, I'm Aaron Lewis.
Hey, it's Luke Bryan.
I'm Tim McGraw.
What's up? This is Ian Munsick.
Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors.
Janet, Dan Thompson is back with us on Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors. And if you missed the show we did a couple of weeks ago talking about grizzly bears and, bringing in the grizzly bears from Montana, it's on demand right now at the radio stations app. So go over and listen to that. But exciting always to talk about bears. And we're back again because we're to the point of the year where these bears are starting to think about going to bed later on this year, and they start looking for some food, Janet.
McDonald's, I think, is maybe what they want the most of. But the translocation story a couple weeks ago was fantastic, and we hope we don't have any relocation stories this fall, but I'm guessing we'll have quite a few knowing what's coming with the food source for the bears across the state, both grizzlies and black bears. And that's why we have Dan Thompson, who always has his finger on the pulse and can let us know what we might be looking at after this hot, dry, dare I say, miserable summer in Wyoming.
It has been an interesting year, especially since last year was cool and wet and things were still green at this point of the year. And it was really crazy to see the flip-flop of the 2 years. And Dan, I'm sure that you have seen some conditions that are a little questionable for how's this going to work this year.
Yeah, I mean, the next couple months that's kind of the stretch where we really see what happens. The bears are entering into that hyperphagic where they're eating more to put on winter weight for the den, but also as things dry out, it is something we're keeping our eyes on, of course. We've had a pretty active bear activity, I guess, but since they came out of the den, it's been busy in a lot of places. So that's not necessarily a food source. That's probably more behaviors they learned last year, I would say, on some bears. But we do have berries coming on. There does seem to be a good berry crop in certain areas. It's still some of the places I've been, in at least northwest Wyoming, it's still green and looking good up high, which is good. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we move forward, as things dry out, what happens with potential for conflict.
Lots of the areas of Wyoming, like in the Yellowstone area and the Snowies, they have okay snow and everything this winter. But when you look at like Casper, where we didn't have a whole lot of snow, and boy, it's dry as a bone here right now. And we've seen a couple of videos where black bears are showing up on Casper Mountain. They're showing out. And this year there's no camping up there, so there's not a lot that's interrupting the bear, the nature of the bear. Will that have an effect on the bears that we have, say, on Casper Mountain?
I don't know what closures are in effect there, unfortunately, but it shouldn't. The big thing that we always stress is that those bears are very opportunistic and they'll try to find whatever food they have. And so, if we can keep any type of human foods away from them as much as possible, that's the best we can do. We do actively manage conflict situations if we have a bear that gets into food rewards or is a safety issue, and we have hunting seasons opening too. So potentially we can direct hunters to areas if there's some bears in an area that can be safely hunted if they're not really wanted in some of those areas. But we're definitely ready to deal with those situations, and we might get some opportune rains and other things and things work out, but it's that kind of prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but that's pretty much every summer when it comes to bears. So
right. And
So, Dan, just to clue you in, Casper Mountain has been closed most of the summer because the campgrounds and things are under construction. So it hasn't been really busy up there. And so I do think that that absolutely will impact the behavior of the bears because they do have more space to roam. And so it's been kind of a nice, mellow summer for them, not a lot of opportunity for conflict because there just isn't the number of people from Casper and across the state up there visiting and camping. And I know we just got done with the Bear Trap Festival not too long ago. And, you know, even as popular as that event is and as many people as that brings, you know, not having that up there this year really gives the bears a break just to be bears. And so hopefully we won't have a ton of conflict up there. But like you said, Drew, we've already had some visitors knocking on cabin doors, licking some barbecues. So.
Right.
so, Dan, in a situation like that where, you know, they're used to people and then people aren't there and then people are going to be back there, can that cause more conflict between the bears and human?
Not necessarily, as long as people are keeping clean camps and doing things right. You know, the bears are going to look, and they're curious, and they're very opportunistic. So they might smell something, check it out, but as long as they're not getting a food reward, they're going to move on. And so that's what we hope to see.
If dry conditions happen, like, you know, there's drought in some parts of this state, will bears travel to find that food source and say they can't find what they want on Casper Mountain? Would they be destined to come toward Casper or?
Well, not all of them. There's not going to be a mass exodus, but there'll definitely be some individuals. You know, one thing, certain berry producing plants might work better down low, like choke cherries, for instance. Here in the Lander where I live, no matter how dry it is, we usually have a good berry crop, choke cherry crop down low. So that does bring some bears down into that. You hope there's enough other types of food sources available out there that they can find that. But if we do have a full mass, like soft mass, like berry crop die off and very low foods, we do tend to see higher conflicts with black bears.
So you had mentioned that hunting season isn't too far away, and do bears kind of feel like, you know, things are a little different? Like I feel like something's watching me, kind of an aspect. And
well, I don't know that it's that level, but you know, and again, I want to stress that hunting bears doesn't stop conflict, but we can sometimes use a hunter surgically to go to an area where we might have some bears in an area that are unwanted or a situation like that. Now, if it's a human safety threat, we're going to deal with that ourselves. But we can use hunting. We've got a couple areas over here now that we open early to wilderness because we've had issues with black bears in the past, and we were able to get hunters on them. So, I mean, again, that is something that can be used when we have that opportunity. And so that's why I mentioned that.
The other option would be to relocate the black bear at that point. When you're scouting places to go and relocate a black bear, I mean, do you take it somewhere similar to where maybe you capture it?
Yeah, and we don't relocate a lot of black bears that are involved in conflict necessarily. If they've already kind of crossed that line, we're somewhat hesitant to move those bears. But yes, we try to move them, number one, in an area that doesn't have that conflict potential there, and that has similar habitat, of course, and as far away from that issue as we can get them.
What kind of a process is it to relocate them? Is it a long, drawn-out process? Is it something that you already have an idea of maybe where you would want a bear to be placed, and then you just get the process rolling?
I mean, we don't know anything until we have a bear in hand, right? And so once the bear is captured, then we will assess that animal, because maybe you catch an animal that you're not sure of, but it's got a broken leg, right? And so you don't want to give the public, because a lot of times the public gets involved. You don't want to say beforehand, we're going to move this bear, and then you get it and it's emaciated and you can't ethically move it.
Right.
So once we get that animal in hand, We look at what it is and we decide maybe it was a bear caught previously, right? That has an old ear tag or something. And then it's already prone to that. So we're probably going to euthanize that animal. But once we get all those things together, we decide if we're going to move it. That process is fairly quick as far as just driving that animal to the area, making sure there's no people there, and then opening that door safely.
So it is it's a fun thing to look at. You know, you look at what goes in to all of this management, and that's what it is. You're managing the wildlife and making sure that Wyoming continues on that stage. And I assume the planning has to be pretty interesting.
It really is. And I mean, Dan is making it a lot more simple than it can be. You know, everything is different between a grizzly bear and a black bear. Grizzly bear relocation takes a lot more effort. Obviously, the trapping is all different with both black bears and grizzly bears. We have a commitment to the public that every time we relocate a grizzly bear, we send out a news release and people can get notified there. And we have those general locations where we do put them out. That doesn't necessarily always happen with black bears, but we do try to be very transparent at all times and let folks know, you know, where they're going. And we don't just drive out there and put them in the middle of nowhere without anyone knowing. We always have lots of cooperation and awareness of landowners that might be in the area or anything along those lines. And definitely we're not going to take it from, you know, a very popular campground in the Bighorns and put it in a very popular campground on Casper Mountain, right? Clearly not good management. And so we do look to all sorts of things to make those decisions. And Dan makes it sound really easy, but it can be pretty tricky at times.
Dan, you had mentioned that you're in the Lander region, that area. Do you work really closely with the other areas when you do have a bear that you're like, okay, we haven't messed with this bear before, we need to try to get rid of it or put it somewhere else? I mean, could you take a bear from Lander to somewhere in the Snowies? Or in the
we usually don't do that. We try to keep them within the region that they're at. That would make things much more difficult if we started moving bears across the state and things like that. We try to keep them kind of within our regional boundaries for game and fish. Now, in Northwest Wyoming with grizzly bears, we do move them across districts and boundaries. But again, there's a lot of communication that goes forth in that. But I don't know that, you know, there's a lot of local things going on, and we don't want to get in the way of something like that, and then people think we're dumping our problem on someone else.
Right. And there's a good population of black bears all over the state anyway. So
absolutely, yeah.
adding another bear into an already populated area could be an issue.
That's the truth. We have very robust black bear and grizzly bear populations. Grizzly bears are federally threatened, so there's a lot more constraints on what can and can't be done. We hate having to put down an animal, but sometimes that's the right thing to do ethically. And sometimes that's what has to be done it actually helps tolerance with bears for the future. If you're moving the same individual and it keeps getting in trouble, that wanes that public tolerance where it could have been maybe nipped at the bud earlier.
The other thing, just to kind of help listeners understand a little bit about how Game and Fish works, is Dan Thompson and his crew of, I don't know, how many are there of you? 6?
9 full-time.
Okay, so 9 are kind of statewide, right? So they oversee a lot of the large carnivores, from wolves to bears to mountain lions, all of those things they work with across the state. And then within each region, and we have 8 different regions in Game and Fish, we have our local biological managers, or wildlife biologists, or wildlife managers, as we call them. And so, you know, they're the ones that are actually on the ground in the regions, and they then work with these 9 folks kind of spread out across the state to make these decisions, to make sure all of this information is communicated well And so, like Dan said, he may not be the person actually doing some of the stuff in Casper or Laramie, but he definitely is the one who's in the know and helping make those decisions. And his crew definitely oversees all of the grizzly bear work and the wolf work as well, because that stuff is, pretty political and a lot of information that goes into it. And so, again, just a lot of folks across the whole state that do a lot of communication and work to keep the bears and all other large carnivores safe.
Yeah, that's important. You notice me waffling on things specific to Casper because I'm not there. We rely on that local expertise and people that we have within our agency to deal with these things, but we're all on the same team, right? So we're there our section was developed primarily because of grizzly bears, but we've grown through time because of different issues with these species and success with these species. And so we're very available just to talk through things, or if needed, if we have enough bandwidth to go help in areas across the state. And so, yeah, it's very much a team approach across the entire state and beyond.
It is, and it's neat to have generalists and specialists. And Thompson and his crew are absolutely our specialists, and our local folks are the generalists. They know a lot about a lot of things, right? And so we often do look to Dan, Dr. Dan, once again, to know a lot about his species as well.
But I think we're also generalists and naturalists by nature.
Oh, maybe is that what you're talking about? We can get into the philosophical discovery or discussion if we get there.
Now that might be getting over our listeners' heads when we start talking about that. I mean,
start quoting some Leopold.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely a team effort, and we're very lucky that we have fantastic teams.
Yeah, and that's why I enjoy talking with Game and Fish, so that we can give information that some people don't know. I mean, because if you see a black bear on Casper Mountain, you may think, oh, well, there's something wrong or something going on. I heard when I moved here, oh, we don't have any bears here. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. And then the next thing you hear is there's a story about a black bear running through, Poplar Street. So,
absolutely.
But getting information out there and getting it from the source is what I love about this. And Dr. Dan Thompson and Janet, we do appreciate it and always love talking to you guys. And of course, remember, it is still bear season. So Bearwise Wyoming is a great place to go to make sure that you are up to date on how to react if you encounter a bear, what you need with you, if you're living in bear country, which we all are, because like we said earlier, black bears are all over this state. So, guys, it's been fun, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you. Good to see you.
It's Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors.
Thanks for tuning in to Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors. Of course, you can go to the radio station's app and listen to all of our episodes on demand. And we've done a lot of episodes, Brian Woodward. Gosh, we're on, this is number 36 for this year. And this is our 4th year of doing it.
Just doesn't even seem possible, does it?
I know. That means that we've gone through a lot of different seasons with this show, and one that we really love is fall, because now we've kind of gone from just focusing on just fishing to focusing on everything else, because it's all here.
It's all here. Man, the fall fishing is always fantastic, and there's always less boats on the water. Kids are in school, hunters are in the field, and the lakes are fishing great. So that's great. And then we've got bird season coming up, lots of bird seasons, and all of our big game stuff is really starting to kick in full force.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of guys that are already out there, if they're doing some archery hunts, some early season stuff, and, they're seeing a lot of great opportunities, and I think a lot of people are kind of holding back and like, I don't want to blow my wad right at the beginning.
Well, yeah, and obviously, like, the first of the month is like the archery season, like, premiere for most of the elk seasons and deer seasons. So that part's awesome. If you were a veteran or disabled, I guess, you had an opportunity to hunt that archery season 5 days earlier. So there's been veterans out there already, or disabled vets out there hunting already for archery season. So it's kind of neat to see that there's some opportunities for people that are coming up. And the weather kind of changed a little bit. We didn't have 105 degree weather. So a few afternoon storms and that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to start seeing some good pictures of some guys with some good success.
So coming into the store and getting prepared, we talk about this a lot of times, and you just mentioned the weather change. So we were to the point where it was near 100 during the day and then in the 70s at night, and then we had that huge storm push through, and we were at 50 in the daytime, and right. Now we're kind of creeping into the upper 40s at nighttime. So being prepared and having the proper clothing and layers is key.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely going to be, if you're hiking in somewhere, you're still going to need to be something that's breathable. But once you stop and sit, you're going to start cooling down pretty quick. So to be able to layer up and layer down is super important, and to make sure that you're wearing clothing that's going to be wicking, that's going to keep that moisture away from your body.
Yeah, good socks, always a great option. And then you have the hand warmers that you pop them, you break it loose, and you got 4 or 5 hours of warmth coming there.
Well, and of course, if you get too cold, you can always fire up the jet boil and make yourself a nice little snack, and enjoy that as well. Have
you seen certain items that seem to be going out a little more this year in the store?
I wouldn't say any more, but I think our customers are realizing that they can trust us for that product to be in stock. So things like your Mountain Ops, Mountain House, the Peak Refuel, those types of categories that have always been good categories for us, we've expanded on those, and we've carried more of a selection from those manufacturers just to provide a better sampling and a better selection for our customers. So the fact that we're still selling the same great quality stuff, but just a larger selection of it, I think is really important.
Of course, as the seasons go along, we've talked about big game, but bird season is here. We got dove opening up, and then a couple of weeks we got duck and goose and sage grouse and grouse, where you got to have that permit and you got to get all that stuff. So really now you could have a truck with 3 or 4 different packs in there, just depending on what you're hunting.
Yeah, again, the garage fills up with the different seasons of what's going on, and just being up to date on the licenses is definitely a challenge. If you're going to be in the field archery hunting, you got to make sure you have your archery stamp. If you also have to have a conservation stamp. You got to make sure that if you're going to hunt grouse, that there's a grouse permit this year. So really be cautious and make sure that you have what you need. We do carry duck stamps in the store. So we're an easy outlet for that, especially with our hours of availability. So duck stamps are available here. You still need your ORVs. Eventually, you're going to need snowmobile passes and stickers for your snowmobiles, or I think any tracked vehicle that you're going to take into the snow. So just be ready and be cautious of what you're going to need for all those different permits and stamps.
So it wasn't long ago that you were off in Dallas, and every time you go to Dallas, that's one of the big shows where you're kind of seeing how things are going to lay out for the next year. And are there any surprises that may come out? I mean, are things looking pretty good?
No, I mean, I think in general, the market, there's always a few new, colors of flicker shads, and maybe a few new manufacturers of fire pits, or, just, some random kind of things. I don't think there's anything that I came back with and said, boy, that is the most innovative thing that's solved the problem
right.
that I've had in a field, And I do think that, we are seeing some pricing come down a little bit. During COVID, the freight charges were astronomical. I mean, the manufacturers were getting hit so hard with shipping costs, where instead of paying, a typical $3,000 or $4,000 for a container, they're paying, anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 for a container. Those prices have come down. So we're able to now, have price reductions on a lot of, especially on the camping side of things, where some of the bulky cots and sleeping bags and tents and that type of stuff that was real bulky and freight intensive. We're starting to see the prices come down on that kind of stuff. So I think that's good. But in terms of innovative new products, we've got some new stuff coming in, but I can't pinpoint one that I would say that, was like, boy, you can't wait to get in here and see this product.
It's funny because you go and you look through the store and you see all the different stuff that's on the shelves now, and you think back to like, oh man, I remember when that came out and that was trend setting and that changed the game on so many things. You know, the backpacks and even the bino packs that they have now. I mean, you used to have to just have them hang around with the string, and now they're strapped to you, making life a little easier.
Yeah, no, technology has definitely helped things out quite a bit. You know, we talked about chronographs a couple weeks ago, and that new Garmin chronograph is phenomenal. I mean, it's a number one seller for us right now, and it's just easy to use. It tracks your shots. It gives you averages. And it's definitely one of our best sellers. But this time of the year, we also see a lot of Garmin InReach minis, or their minis, their communication devices, and we talked about those in the past as well. But that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing, guys that are really like, you know, I don't have one of these. I'm going to go a little further back into the backcountry. I want to make sure that I can communicate if I get into trouble. I want something with an SOS service on it. So that kind of stuff is starting to really pick up some speed, you know, these last few weeks.
So one thing that a lot of guys had worried about was ammunition. And I know if you walk through the store right now, it doesn't look like there's much missing that normally is there.
There's not much missing in terms of, like, you know, most calibers are still easy to get a hold of, but there's still some struggles. Like manufacturers over the last few years, because of the shortage on certain bullets and certain powders, have had to kind of reformulate their formulas and what they were using. So I know at one point Weatherby was having a problem getting a certain type of powder. And so their data on their boxes had to change because the powder that they're using for that particular bullet load is different. And so you want to make sure that, you know, if you're doing a turret style system, to purchase the same ammo, and if it's not available, then you may have to find an ammo that still shoots well for you, but you may have to turret your gun or your scope to the right specifications of that particular bullet.
So much stuff goes into making sure you're out getting the best of your hunt, and you can get it all right here at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports and RockyMountainSports.com. You can start your shopping experience there.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
We're excited to be back at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports because there's just something in the air. You get to where you're almost into September and you can see all the seasons coming ahead. And Brian, I know that not only are you going to do some elk hunting, you got a bull tag, do some cow hunting later in the fall, but bird season is just about upon us. And I know one of your favorite things to do is shoot some geese. And you think this year is going to look pretty good?
You know, it's every year is a whole mystery depending on what happens up north in terms of weather conditions and how much snow they get in Canada and at what time. And the Yellowstone River in Montana holds a lot of birds. And if that river doesn't freeze up, then a lot of times those birds stay up there and get in that nice jacuzzi and don't ever come down. So it really just kind of depends on what the weather's going to do. I mean, they're forecasting for a kind of a rough winter from some reports. So if it starts up north, then we'd probably be in pretty good shape. But just never know. And, you know, as much as I love hunting the waterfowl and geese and ducks, and you know, this first opening split for us is really kind of like, yeah, maybe we'll get out once, but you know, if the weather still stays as nice as it is, it's really hard to sit out there in a blind fighting off mosquitoes.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's right. It's okay to do that on the water when you're, you know, fishing, but you don't want to lay there. And no. So I've already heard Glacier National Park up there, they got a good quality of snow in Canada, up to and over 6 inches of snow in some of the higher areas, and even here in Wyoming, the Wind River and all that, there's already some snow falling. So I think that's pretty typical of like Labor Day-ish area where you get a little bit. And then
anytime one of us working folks has a weekend off, it's going to be crappy. Right?
Really crappy. And
I'll show you how nice of a weekend you're going to have. Yeah.
So when it comes to the backcountry hunting, you know, you've kind of got your idea of where you're going to hunt, and you kind of got things planned out. But I mean, is it a game time decision how you really go about it, or are you pretty focused on how you're going to go in?
You know, everything changes by the day. It has to do with weather patterns, of course, life in general. I was hoping to get out as early as Sunday this week, and something else came up, so that's not going to happen. And so a lot of it's just kind of on the fly based on weather conditions, family commitments, and whatever else is out there. So I do hope that I'm going to get out tomorrow for a little bit and just kind of snoop around and see what's going on in the country. Other than that, my schedule's already pretty full, so hopefully I can put enough days in the field this month to make it happen.
So fishing still isn't off the table for a lot of folks. You're going to do some fishing over the weekend, and we've talked about Glendo and how Glendo is a little bit surprising to be at 34 or less % at this point.
Right.
So that really kind of plays a big role in what people are going to do and how they're going to go about it.
Yeah, I mean the fall fishing is fantastic. In fact, I got a couple trips, with some friends that we're going to be out, and it's a great time of year. I mean the fall fishing is usually comfortable weather-wise. Mm-hmm. And the bite, especially down at Glendo, that vertical spoon bite there in Boysen's phenomenal. So there's great opportunities coming out here for the fall fishing as well. So yeah, it kind of just depends on weather. I mean, if the weather's going to be a little crappy, maybe I'll go do some bird hunting, and if it's going to be a little nicer, maybe I'll go do some fishing, and if it's somewhere in between, I might go elk hunting. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's just horrible that those are all your options.
I know. It's like, again, it's just one of those things. It's like, how do you manage to get it all done?
Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you that get in here to Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, and if you need anything in any of those areas, if it's bird, if it's fish, if it's big game, or if it's eating when you're finished, they can get you taken care of right here, Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, and go check them out, RockyMountainSports.com.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
And we're back on Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors. If you've missed any of our segments over the last couple of years, you can hear on demand at the radio station's app, presented by Rocky Mountain Discount Sports and Brooks Companies. And one of the hot topics in the outdoors is getting women involved. And there are lots of women that really want to be involved with the outdoors, but they're not sure what to do. And it wasn't long ago that one of my friends contacted me and said, hey, I want to go fishing or I want to go hunting, but I'm not sure what to do. So Kamisha Larson is a friend of mine that is one of those outdoor lovers. She has been in outdoors since she was a kid and has passed the love of the outdoors on to her own family and kids. And Kamisha, we appreciate you being on the show. And, being in the outdoors is one of those things that's kind of a privilege and one of the great things we get to do here in Wyoming.
Absolutely. It is really such a freedom to be able to go out and be able to go onto the public lands that we have. And it's just a beautiful place to get out and explore and also be able to go hunting in as well.
So you, like I said, have been an outdoor woman for most of your life. And there are women that have never even thought of being in the outdoors in the way of hunting or fishing or, camping and hiking. And you were just at an event called More Than Gathers on a weekend like this, kind of a retreat weekend. What are some of the things that the ladies are learning when they're at this event?
It is such an educationally packed event. It's just so much. It literally is like Hunter's Ed on steroids for women, but it's an awesome opportunity for them to get out and be able to come and we shoot guns. And we had so many awesome sponsors that we were able to take them to the shooting range in DuBois, and everyone gets a chance to try to shoot a shotgun and shoot a rifle. Some of them have never touched a gun, let alone been in the outdoors, so they don't know what to expect. It can be a very emotional experience, which we did see, and it's awesome also in the same fact that women are getting out there and pushing themselves and trying to grow and evolve and not only learn how to hunt, but to learn how to do it correctly and safely, which is one of the biggest skills that we're helping push to in this deal.
When a mother is in a single mother situation, there's no male influence around for her kids, but she wants to get her kid into the outdoors because the kid is excited and wants to learn. This kind of a get-together will give you the confidence. And I know the First Hunt Foundation is one of those foundations that you've worked at in the past for women that want to learn about hunting, but there are many, many, many opportunities for people. And if you were talking with someone that they wanted to know more about the outdoors, what are some advice that you would give them or some ideas that you would give them?
I always say if you don't ask, you never know. So, I mean, reach out, research. You have to kind of do the work. You have to put yourself in places where those kind of people are doing the kind of things that you want to do. And there's so many people that would love to help you learn and help you get into going out in the outdoors and doing different stuff to help you grow in that field.
And you've been going to these events for a long time, being an influence to a lot of women. And when you go to these, do you ever learn things still?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the best part about it, because you're always learning something. You're always learning even how other people do stuff a little bit differently and how to make things maybe a little bit easier than how you are doing it. So, like a great place to start is always going to like hunting expos. That's where I've met a lot of people. That's how I got involved with Fred Williams and the First Hunt Foundation and Catherine Boswell with the Game and Fish. And they were just like, hey, we feel like you'd be a really great candidate. And I was just in a place in my life where I was like, I would absolutely love to do this, and I would hate to see this program die. So I started putting on my own antelope hunt for women, and that happened through First Hunt Foundation. But prior to that, I had gone to a Game and Fish boat camp with one of my good friends, and that's Becoming an Outdoors Women. So there's a lot of resources out there for you to get started. And once you start going to those things, you just build an empire of contacts, and that is the best part of it.
And you yourself are learning stuff all the time. You went on a turkey hunt with the group this year.
Turkey hunting is really not my forte, but I wanted to get out there and do it, and that's where our new director for Share the Heritage came in, Rachel Voss, and she is a waterfowl lover, and she's getting out there on social media and really connecting with people and growing the program. So she was really pushing a lot of turkey hunting this year. It was definitely a learning experience, but myself and my other guides, we got out there and we put our boots on the ground and we went after it.
You know, you may not always get the job done, but you try. And a lot of time it's just the experience. You know, and that's how you and I met, was through hunting camp, where, you know, you were doing some guiding with Cedar Ridge Outfitters, and we kind of got to talking. And, you know, Tony's a friend of mine, and you guys are going to do some hunting together, and you're actually going to be able to do some guiding and have some ladies and kids that are going to come in that you're going to be an influence to them for the elk season this year.
Yes, absolutely. And that's just our passions have come together, and we love helping people get out in the outdoors and be able to help them learn how to harvest. Elk hunting is where that all falls into place for us. So we're fortunate enough that we can provide an opportunity for newer hunters all the way to, you know, advanced hunters to get in here. And it's just fun being able to connect with people and sharing the experience of hunting.
I like the fact that there's opportunities, and when you go hunting with Cedar Ridge Outfitters, they're going to help you through the entire way. If it's something you're uncomfortable with before you get into the field, you're going to feel comfortable with it. If it's maybe you haven't shot a particular rifle or used a scope, or, you know, even with archery, if you're just not comfortable, they're going to help you even before you get into the field. And I know that you guys have booked a lot of hunts already with Cedar Ridge, but the opportunities are there all the time, and I think that you guys probably still have opportunities for this year.
Yeah, we have like a couple more slots that we could squeeze in, maybe a couple of more hunters. And that's the best part, being able to run something like this is that we're super flexible. And if it doesn't work out this year, there's always next year too.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, because of the way that the seasons fall and everything. It's something that maybe it's a future. You start looking with your hunter's education and your safety courses to get those out of the way, and then you can contact someone like Kamisha or Tony, and they can really lead you through and help you throughout the year and through the years in your outdoor experience. What is your favorite part of hunting? Is it hunting? Is it fishing? Is it guiding? Is it just being there?
A lot of it is just being there and being able to share the experiences with everybody and creating new friendships and bonds. That's really the most important part of it for me.
So the More Than Gathers is this program that was happening just through August. And is this something that is going to be an annual occurrence?
Yes, absolutely. So Jess Johnson with the Wyoming Wildlife Federation reached out with Game and Fish and a ton of other sponsors and put this program together. The More Than Gatherers was kind of like a pilot program this year, but they're also making it affordable because it's not cheap to get into the outdoors. Like, go buy a gun, you drop $1,000. Oh, wait, you need ammo, you need a scope, you need all of the safety things that go along with it. Hunter Orange, but you need to have Hunter's Ed. So basically this program is like Hunter's Ed on steroids. You do the Hunter's Ed program through Game and Fish Online, and then these 2 weekends that we had incorporated learning everything from A to Z. You got out in the field, you learn safety, you learn lots of different topics that you just go over wildlife management. They go over the laws and wildlife ID game clarification, how to pee and poop in the woods.
Which is, it's weird,
everything.
but that's one of the fears that a lot of women have is when you're out there, there's no commode and you gotta feel it.
Absolutely. And so it really covers all of your topics from A to Z, and it's a super welcoming and opening environment, and we had lots of open discussions and, hey, what do you do about this? Or is this fact or fiction? And they brought in Game and Fish specialists, and it was just an amazingly educational opportunity. And I'm super proud of Jess for getting this put together and finding sponsors. And it just really fell together very nicely.
Awesome. Well, Kamisha, we appreciate you for helping out and making it known that that it's okay to not know anything about being an outdoor woman, but you can become outdoorsy easily. Go to WyomingWildlife.org. That's where you can find out more information. Or if you want to get in contact with Tony or Kamisha, go to CedarRidgeHunting.com. And we appreciate you checking in with us and look forward to seeing you back out in camp.
Thanks, Drew. We'll see you at elk hunting camp.
Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors with Drew Kirby. If you have a question, want to make a comment, or have an idea for a show topic, message us on the My Country mobile app. Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.